I'm Kamali, taking you through some of the things people are talking about and some of the stuff they're sharing around the world on Newsfeed today. Weinstein was convicted. We look at how social media reacted. A baboon breakout causes a mild panic in Sydney, Australia. Could the locust plague in East Africa be about to spread? And the internet wins again. This otter is our animal doing stuff. And top of our newsfeed, Harvey Weinstein. The 67-year-old has been convicted of 2 counts of sexual assault and rape, bringing to an end the first chapter in his reckoning with his past. Here's Adama.
Harvey Weinstein's days of abusing women are truly over. A jury found the 67-year-old former film mogul guilty of sexual assault and rape. Weinstein was found guilty on 2 of 5 charges: sexual assault in the 1st degree on Miriam Haley, rape in the 3rd degree on Jessica Mann. But he was cleared of the most serious count of predatory sexual assault. He faces a jail sentence of between 5 and 29 years.
We founded Me Too over a decade ago.
The verdict is a victory for the #MeToo movement, which began with the words of social activist Tarana Burke on MySpace in 2006. It evolved into a rallying cry and social media movement in 2017. And Weinstein was one of the many high-profile figures brought down by it.
We all have to deal with the specter of sexual violence derailing our lives. And though today a man has been found guilty, we have to wonder whether anyone will care about the rest of us tomorrow. This is why we say Me Too.
The actor Rose McGowan, who also accused Weinstein of rape, paid tribute to the victims.
I'm proud of the brave women who testified. They have taken out a monster on earth. Thank you to the prosecutor and jury who said not one more. Thank you to the public for examining things more deeply. I can finally exhale.
And actress Mira Sorvino, another woman who accused Weinstein of assault, had this to say.
The beginning of #Justice. More to come, my sisters.
Weinstein had been turning up to court each day using a walker. Looking a shell of the man he once was, many on social media never believed he really was that frail, and were quick to point out the apparent recovery when he was led away in handcuffs and spent a lonely night in Rikers Island prison. Weinstein's sentencing hearing will be on March 11th, and he still faces charges in Los Angeles. Prosecutors allege he raped a woman and sexually assaulted another during the Oscars week in 2013. He also faces civil suits from numerous women.
Okay, let's take a look at some of the other things that caught our eye on social media. Now, Sydney was beset by a band of baboons today, with 3 apes running not quite amok in the suburbs. Social media went to town on it, of course, with some people wondering if they were really wild animals or just a little gang of Aussie politicians. The animals were escapees from the Royal Prince Alfred Hospital, where they'd been used to test treatments for diabetes, kidney disorders and heart conditions. They're under control again now, with police successfully wrangling the unhappy convicts, who will now be sent back to be experimented on once more. The food served and not eaten by US President Donald Trump during his time in India is taking up a lot of time on Indian Twitter. The commander-in-chief was served a broccoli samosa, which to anyone who's had a normal samosa sounds like an abomination. The actor and cooking show host Padma Lakshmi provided plenty of shade with this tweet saying, "Trump is the broccoli samosa of people." And just days after being declared the world's oldest living man, Chisetsu Watanabe has died. He was 112. This video from earlier this month, when he got his Oldest Man Award certificate, was filmed just a few weeks ago. He lived in Japan and was born in 1907. He said his key to longevity was to keep smiling. Well, to the Israeli-occupied territories now, and a video has been shared at the moment the Israeli army decided to use a bulldozer to carry the body of a Palestinian fighter they just killed. to East Africa now, where you may have seen there is a plague of locusts ravaging the countryside. And the worry is now that plague of locusts could be about to spread.
These insects are causing havoc across East Africa, devouring everything in their path. The locust is a type of grasshopper which is pretty harmless when alone. But when the weather conditions are right, they unite, changing color and behavior. The locust swarm is said to have entered the Horn of Africa through Yemen, and each pack contains hundreds of millions of insects, which can travel more than 140 kilometers a day. The plague is described as the worst outbreak some countries have seen in decades. These migratory pests are causing an alarming threat to food security and livelihoods in countries where people are already suffering from a severe hunger crisis. In South Sudan, for example, about 1.3 million people aged under 5 will already suffer from acute malnutrition this year.
Naweza pata 400 sasa hakuna chochote nimevuna. Yote inaonekana hii nini imekula kabisa. Sasa umeona vile imelalia ndengo, mahindi, mtama, kunde, kila kitu wamekula.
So what's triggering it? According to experts, it's the climate crisis. The last 5 years have been the hottest on record, and at least 20 of the fast-swarming countries globally are in Africa.
Warmer seas mean more cyclones, generating the perfect breeding ground for locusts.
To put the damage they can cause into perspective,
just think of a swarm that covers Manhattan from the south up to the north. And this is just a medium-sized swarm. It's not really a big swarm for desert locusts. That swarm in one day can eat the same amount of food as the entire population of Kenya. That swarm in one day can eat the same amount of food as everybody here in the tri-state area, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York. So the potential is tremendous that we should not underestimate by any means.
Aerial spraying is the most effective way to control the locust plague. But most countries either don't have access to resources, or in countries like Yemen or Somalia, it's too dangerous to enter certain areas. The UN has called on the international community to provide funds to help the affected areas, in hopes of helping to prevent it from spreading worldwide.
These guys are professional survivors. They've been doing this for eons. They've gone through climate change, and they've survived very well, probably better than we will. So the risk is now the Horn of Africa, but by summertime it could conceivably expand to Northern Africa and to Southwest Asia.
And we'll keep spinning around the world now for some other stories you need to know this Tuesday. Well, there's violence on the streets of Delhi as Donald Trump holds his powwow with Narendra Modi. People are protesting the Citizenship Amendment Act, and they've been attacked by people who are supporting it. The act has been described as anti-Muslim. Social media is full of reports of that people who are visibly Muslim have been attacked. This video is said to be the Ashok Nagar Mosque being desecrated. Delhi riots and Delhi burning have been trending hashtags. The former president of Egypt, Hosni Mubarak, is dead at the age of 91. He ruled Egypt for 30 years, but was removed from office in 2011 during the Arab Spring uprising. He was jailed afterwards, but was later acquitted of most charges and freed in 2017. He died in intensive care after undergoing surgery last month. Egypt says he'll be given a military funeral. Now, just yesterday, Iran's deputy health minister held a media conference denying claims that 50 people had died there from coronavirus. And throughout it, he didn't look too well. He was sweating, as you can see, wiping his brow. Well, today, he's been forced to admit that he has tested positive for the virus. He posted this on Twitter.
They say the coronavirus is a democratic one. It does not differentiate between the rich and the poor, and those in power and not in power.
And in Turkey, a Turkish Airlines jet has been made to land in Ankara en route from Tehran. 132 people on board are now in quarantine for 14 days. The spread around the world is still not being described as a global pandemic by the World Health Organization. More than 2,500 have died from it in China, with an increasing number dying in other countries. And the Rio Carnival is over for another year, and on the last day, a number of floats had a political message. People from the São Clemente Samba School say they wanted to deliver a message to the Brazilian peasant Jair Bolsonaro. The float of Pinocchio was meant as a commentary on fake news. Some others held banners saying the gravy train is over as a way of highlighting government corruption. Now, hippopotami. You probably think the species only live in the wild in parts of sub-Saharan Africa, yeah? Well, guess again, muchacho. Thanks to the menagerie of one of the world's biggest drug dealers, they're now living large in parts of Colombia. Here's Esra.
It's a big problem. Wild Colombian hippos, perhaps the most unlikely and definitely the largest, reminders of legendary drug lord Pablo Escobar. His cartel controlled 80% of the global cocaine market in the 80s, and it made him filthy rich. So what did he do with all that money? He built a private zoo and stocked it with more than 200 animals. After his death in 1993, most of the animals were moved to public zoos, but his 4 hippos, 3 females and a male, were left behind, and they quickly multiplied.
We have over 60 or 70 individual hippos in the wild. These animals aren't controlled, they're living free. They're causing ecological damage. They are affecting the ecosystems in the region of the Magdalena, and they are displacing native species.
The hippos spend their days cooling off in the Magdalena River, and researchers say that's having a harmful effect on the water quality.
The Magdalena connects almost all of Colombia, so they could end up in any part of the country. It's urgent, and we need to prioritize reinforcing our strategy to control the population of hippos in Colombia.
There's also a safety issue. Hippos are very aggressive, known to kill more people in their native Africa than any other species.
It worries us a lot. The school doesn't have any protection, and sometimes when they pass by here, we have to lock ourselves inside with the children to make sure an accident doesn't happen.
Now, authorities are trying to limit population growth through castration, but until these ones naturally die off, they're here to stay.
It's really nice and impressive to see them in the streets of our town. For me, we should maintain them because it generates more tourism and the people want to come and see these animals.
Who would have thought that the king of cocaine's long-lasting gift to Colombia would be the hippopotamus?
And last up, a musical animal doing stuff today, and what this one is doing is playing the sax, kind of. Now, more than 7 million people have watched this otter play the saxophone intro to Careless Whisper. Now, why someone has an otter as a pet is one of the many questions we have about this video, but if the internet is happy with what is going on, then who are we to question? Play on, Otterman, play on. And that will do from the Newsfeed team. Reach out to me with your questions, comments, complaints, and suggestions. You'll find me at Kamali Melbourne. You'll find us 24/7 on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel and follow me on Twitter. Follow, subscribe, and add. See you again tomorrow.